In this special episode of You Can't Laugh at That, Steve, Jeremy, and I, David, discuss the recent Tony Hinchcliffe incident, because here we are, a podcast talking about what's funny, why it's funny, how to make it more funny, how to connect with other people. Sometimes we've got to talk about how not to do things, or at least look at things from multiple perspectives, poke holes in it, ask more questions. So we decided, instead of doing our regular episode this week, we are going to air this special episode. Now, I will warn you, there are racial slurs describing Asian and Latino Americans mentioned in this podcast. Just full warning. Our intent is good. We're here to prove a point, to prove that anything can be funny, and when things are made funny, it gives us power over those things. It helps us move on from those traumas and pains and discomfort and all of that stuff. So the goal here is to prove that anything can be funny, but sometimes in order to do that, we've got to point out the things that aren't, or at least how they can be made funnier. So that being said, sit back and enjoy this special edition of You Can't Laugh at That, where we discuss how Kill Tony didn't kill.
Well, here we are, we're recording, and since none of you asked, this is a special edition episode of You Can't Laugh at That, addressing the Tony Hinchcliffe incident. So with me is my co-host, David Horning, and we also have our engineer, who's also a comedian. His name is Jeremy Demery.
I like how we both waved, and this is a podcast.
Yeah. Well, we were also touting what shirts we were wearing, like it mattered. But we do have video clips. But yeah, Tony Hinchcliffe had a set.
a little bit of
Austin,
a
Texas, the new forefront of edgy comedy, because we fucking hate Los Angeles and we live in Austin now, even though it's super liberal too, and we're trying to establish ourselves as, you can't say anything anymore. That's what the new Texas comedy scene is. You can't talk about anything anymore. No, you can. You just suck.
It's always bigger in Texas.
Tony Hinchcliffe, one time I actually brought a 357 to Kill Tony, and luckily he didn't have me go up. So
you would have
I didn't understand the premise of the show, so I just assumed, bring a firearm and just hope for the best. That was a joke that existed before this incident.
You guys got to go up to the
Kill Tony,
store.
just go up on stage with a gun and kill Tony.
Perfectly relevant now.
Yeah, now it just makes perfect sense, because it's like. But I think there was a slight bit of, when I first saw the incident where he goes up there and basically just calls him a chink. Let's just say that, because that's pretty much the zenith of the zenith phobia of the bit that he did, or the little trying to do the quasi racist thing, where he's like on this gray area between sarcasm and I really mean what I'm saying. Obviously, he was trying to be ironic when he called him a chink. But when you get to the point where, and your set progresses into you talking about how all these dumb liberals, even though that's really kind of why, Joe Rogan would agree with that. It's your whole crew that is anti-PC for the sake of being shocking. I don't know. You guys can take it from, I'm just fucking mouth diarrhea.
Yeah, shock humor has its place. It has, when done well, and I get it, it's a comedy show. It wasn't meant to be recorded. It wasn't meant to be put out there, and he was trying something new. He took that risk. And you have to give comics the freedom to take that risk, but at the same time, you also have to be cognizant of the nature of the world right now.
Yeah.
It's a balance.
Not that you necessarily meant to say that, but I disagree that it was a shock. I think he was just trying to be, I think there is an element of that, but I think it's just the irony or something of like, oh, I'm doing this kind of like character where I'm like being a racist. Oh, and because you could hear it in the tone of his voice, where he's like, this chick, like no one, it's like, there wasn't sincerity in what he was saying, but there was still like, it wasn't funny. I mean, it wasn't like, I don't know. I guess you could say that there is a shock value to that, but it would the intention was ironic, regardless of if any shock was intended along the way, along with it. But when Ari Shaffir loaded a video, acting like as if this extra context was going to make it better, didn't to me, because he just went on this tirade about how everybody was moving from Los Angeles and everybody's pussies.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. I haven't seen Tony Hinchcliffe do stand-up ever. So I don't know what he's normally like. I don't know how much of his act is sarcasm in a character of whatever the fuck he was doing there. But I feel, but tones. Yeah, I mean, we're all humans. We all respond to body, nonverbal, or I should say non-syntactic, or whatever the word is, anything that's intonation, inflection, all that.
Right.
You can tell that there was there was sincerity in that. I feel like he was going overboard with it, almost making fun of his own. I don't know.
Well, Jeremy, you wanted to chime in.
He just didn't show any humanity to it. Like, we understand that when a comedian's making a joke, whether it's in jest or not, you still show a sense of like respect for the human being. Even like, look at Don Rickles. Like, Don Rickles roasted everybody, no matter who you are, what your nationality, creed, religion, no matter who you are, he was going to make fun of you. But he always had this glimpse of respect for the human being. And I don't think that Tony Hinchcliffe tipped the hat to the person at all. And he didn't break character to let the audience know, I'm doing this as a mirror to ignorance of society. He didn't, there's always that like little hint of like, just that smallest breaking of character could have gone a long way, or that would have signified to me like, oh, he's doing a bit and the bit was done poorly. And I think had he done that, I think it would have been excusable in a sense, but he didn't do that. And he didn't say like, well, no, he's a good guy, or he had a good set. He didn't do...
Or give it up for him.
Yeah, not even that. Like the simplest, like just even the simplest courtesy of an opener. He didn't even give him that.
Yeah. Let's play the clip for those of you who haven't seen it. And we're going to pick up too a little bit of Peng Dang's set as well, just so there's a little more of that context. So it's not just that 30-second clip that he posted on his Twitter, which I'm going to get into that too.
2 weeks ago, on a Sunday night, I went to downtown Dallas for the Stop Asian Hate rally. Downtown Dallas, Sunday night, it was business as usual. There was no boarded up window. I'm like, fuck, you think I won't do it? Like, fuck you, Target, show some respect. They don't take us seriously. They don't take us seriously because we don't run the country. And you can always tell who run the country just by the way they protest. Like, white people, your protest is more demanding. Your chants are tough. Like, stop the count, storm the Capitol, hand my pens, Jews will not replace us. It gives us a really long to-do list. It's very demanding. Like Asian protests, we didn't even say yellow lives matter. We just want you to stop messing with us. Just stop being mean to us. Stop it, man. We'll give you extra soy sauce. What do you want? We're open. But after the protest, I was smoking a cigarette outside, and a homeless person came up to me asking for money. So I gave him $1, and this guy took the $1, immediately changed his face. He said, excuse me, sir, can I just buy a cigarette from you? I'll give you $1. I'm like, bro, are you trying to buy a cigarette from me with my money? Like, what's going on? I was really confused, but we still did the transaction. That's when I realized, man, this guy is actually super smart. He knows my weakness. Because there are two things in this world a Chinese person cannot resist. Lending money to America and selling stuff that costs $1. Hey, that's my time, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming out, you guys. You're gonna love this guy. He needs no introduction. You've seen him on Kill Tony's show. Give it up for the one and only Tony Hinchcliffe.
Time for the filthy little fucking chink that was just up here. While all you fucking race traders are hooping and hollering, I'm back there watching you puking in a fucking bucket. Oh, we making a gunpowder. Oh, you want extra soy sauce. Oh, you borrow money from us. And you guys just eating it up, you fucking pussies. Look at you. You fucking fake bitches in this room. I don't even want to make you guys laugh. I don't even like you anymore. These fucking Chinese people, they find out we have flying bats every night, and here they come. Ooh, flying soup. And you guys just eating. I love the liberal chicks just holding strong. Can't even smile at this, huh? No way, we can't even bend. This guy's being serious. He must have hate in his blood. We live so far east of the 35. How can I look my Asian nerd barista in the eyes tomorrow if I laugh at this? Fucking pussies everywhere. I'm so sick of this fucking shit. I'm so sick of it. I left Los Angeles for this. I left LA, I got away from all those fucking liberal smartasses just to move here around a bunch of liberal dumbasses. All my friends fucking lied to me. Joe Rogan, Ron White, they're liars. They said, get out of LA, move here, get away from the traffic and homeless people. Here I am.
There it is.
Yeah, it's clear that he's moved to Austin and he's in Texas and he thinks, oh, I get to change my attitude about things because people are more accepting of these things here. And it's weird because there's like a weird ambiguity to it. Because it's like, no, you're on the side that is racist though too. Or I mean, this non-liberal side is they don't have an identity. It's we're not racist, but then half of them are like, actually, I am a racist, but I guess I'll just be quiet about it because they're helping me politically. For it's like this weird thing where that like you literally a lot of non-liberal people are racist. Not all of them, just being liberal is one of the tenets is like the fight against racism,
accepting of more people,
right? Open-mindedness, being able to change your ideas, not being so antiquated, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of this too is fixating on one opinion or one belief or one side or whatever, and that's it, and that's final. And it's like, life is way more complicated than that.
He was aiming at PC culture.
Mm-hmm.
Right at it, and he's just trying to be ironic, but he's not in a way because he's going. It's like the logic doesn't add up, and that's why it's so controversial because people are like, what the hell's going on here?
Right. And I get that he came up with that right then and there. And it's like, I'm sure that if he were to sit down and write a joke, it would be a lot more, it would be a lot less like bashing you over the head and a lot more kind of that like sneaky, like, oh, I'm laughing at this even though I don't believe in it. And it didn't work. What do you guys feel about the idea that, comedy, like you have to try stuff like that?
When I was new to comedy, I did say a slur on stage. There was this one time, and it worked. Like the audience laughed because they knew where I was coming from. I think that, and I didn't do it intentionally either. I did it like as an extra tag. And what happened was I did my bit about, I heard a country song on the radio and it sounded like the Beverly Hillbillies theme. It's like, we're all a bunch of hicks who live out in the sticks. We need to install a bigger wall to keep out all the Spanish speaking immigrants. And I did that. And then right when they laughed at that, I said Spix right after it. And then they laughed really hard at that because what I did was like, I did a double reversal instead of a first reversal. And then I was like, oh man. And then after that, I was like, well, I'll never do that again. Because even though they got that I was kidding, and that's why they all laughed. I mean, they were all a bunch of liberal Lakewoodites, you know, and like they were all just, it wasn't the wrong crowd that was laughing at it per se, but it was a very average crowd of well-meaning people.
But also, what were you aiming at in that joke?
Originally, it's just like my other joke where I almost say a slur, but I subvert the expectation, and then, and plus I'm saying I heard this song on the radio. I'm not saying I wrote this song and I believe in it and I think it's right. It's one of those things, and I say I heard it in Texas or something because that's where the border's at, and that's their whole thing. But yeah, but I would never do that again because A, I don't think it would work per se. It's a huge risk, and B, it's just not, even if I am well-meaning, it's not entirely obvious to everyone. And I just don't think I should be saying on stage. Like, that's just as simple. It's as simple. If you can't say that joke to everybody, I don't think you should be saying it to anybody.
Were you poking fun at that mentality of like, keep brown people out, like that country, like,
yeah, it's I mean, it's weird because in the fiction of it, they make fun of themselves by calling themselves hicks that live in the sticks. So it's kind of like, it's clearly like kind of like, yeah, I wrote this, obviously, duh, but I am calling them hicks right off the bat. But then it rhymes with Spix, and then it's like, okay.
Do you think that that's what where the humor was? The fact that you were not punching down on a marginalized community, but you were more like punching down on, or punching up, or however you want to phrase it. You know,
there's no meaning. There's no. Well, you can derive meaning from this joke, but there's no meaning. The meaning is laughter. Yeah. The laughter comes from subverting. They're like convinced I'm going to say Spix, and I don't. I say Spanish speakers, Spanish speaking immigrants, whatever. It's changed over the years, but it's just the subverted expectation. And it's always gotten a big laugh when the room is like there's a big audience, and it just works. So I mean, it's all just that switcheroo at the end, and you know. But there is the meaning. I mean, you get the whole like. The people are racist in Texas. That's the meaning.
And I think that's what, to me, that's the difference between these two examples. Why does yours work and his not?
Because I'm making fun of racists, and he is being like quasi-racist to a crowd of people who are clearly also. You heard those laughs from only dudes, by the way, too. I didn't hear any women cheering. Right. They're a bunch of masculine dudes going, woo! Yeah, fuck the liberals! Yeah, that's not comedy. That's a political soapbox. It's not clever. There's nothing going on there. And I hate those people. The people that are wooing, those are the people I want dead. Like, I want them dead. They can die and the world would be a better place. And, you know, I've got a cold heart for those people. And I kind of, I want them to, I don't want them to die. I want them to slowly suffer and then have to be like.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, I don't know. Just
anybody who lives a closed-minded existence is not operating at their best self. And that's the ultimate irony here is people who are like, oh, these liberal snowflakes are offended by everything. But then you say one thing that is like challenging to their belief system and they get angry. They get violent. They get, the
only resistant. Offended people I've ever encountered in comedy And I've gone both ways. I've put myself in many positions to upset liberals, as you can see. Like I could, to someone who is not like really thinking about what I'm trying to say, or if I said it poorly in learning how to do comedy and doing something out of poor taste, which I've done many times.
Yeah.
I've never had a liberal be vocal or walk out. I've never seen it, but I've seen plenty of conservative people get really mad, walk out, storm out, pout, be babies, big fucking babies. That's what they are. Mm-hmm. Seen it so many times. It's like, you guys are so hilarious with your fucking hypocrisy.
You and your stupid amygdalas letting it run the show.
Here's a good example. Ryan DePerna did his, and you can see why Ryan DePerna would upset some conservatives. He was at LVT and he's like, I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said, USA 1, Bin Laden 0, but I think the official count is USA 1, Bin Laden 5,768. And then the conservative, there's this conservative family sitting at the back table. They weren't there for comedy though either. I'll give them that. Mm-hmm. But they got so mad. We gotta leave. Get up right in the middle of our dinner. Get up and storm out and make a big scene. And then there's the dad and then the two Haas sons. They're like, "You liberal faggot." That's they said before they left. And yeah, that was a fun time. I got so much enjoyment out of watching that.
So what do you feel about like the outcry around this whole incident? The Hinchcliffe incident. Never mind.
Unhinchcliffe?
Yeah, he became unhinged.
Unhinged. Wait, what? What?
Like the outcry around it. Like the, people who are saying, he should work a day in his life.
People are just people are upset for Chinese people and for everybody. I don't think anybody's offended. I think offended is not the right word. I hate when people use the word offended. It's like, I guess you could say it was offensive what he did, but it's but people aren't offended. People are criticizing him pretty aggressively.
Had the joke worked, had the audience like lost their shit laughing, had Peng Dang lost his shit laughing, would that have changed things?
Well, I guess the reaction would have been caused by a different stimuli. So it's like, I don't know if that exact performance would have plugged into a different audience and had a different result per se, especially outside of where he was. I think, I don't know. He could do that in middle America anywhere. And I think that would actually, I don't know. People laugh at that stuff. You say filthy chink to someone or dirty or whatever the word you use. Like, I just don't, there's nothing actually funny about that.
It's lowbrow, low hanging fruit. There's no work. There's no thought put into it.
I'm really trying to make this sound as funny as I can. It just doesn't come out funny in any way you slice it. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's like you try, but it's like just, I can't see an angle.
It's definitely a miss as far as a joke for sure.
In the mild devil's advocate view is, so what, he fucked up. And also words are noises, but words also have meaning. And then you go back to,
Yeah, I love what Martin Urbano said in that one episode. Like, could somebody use this, what he just heard Tony Hinchcliffe say, and use that as a weapon against an Asian person, and demean that person or physically assault that person? Like, could he use that as ammo? And the answer is obviously yes.
I mean, the question is by saying this, who are you trying to empower? Are you trying to hold the light up to, because to me, it just screams of such white fucking privilege, because you didn't have, you don't have to consider the social climate for Asian Americans right now. You didn't have to take into consideration how this might make this, comedian who is middling in Texas, his feelings and his insecurities, and it just, the whole thing. That's the thing that kind of bothered me the most, is that, and then he goes into like, oh, I should they told me to come down here, and and it basically explains how I can come down here and I can live with my own ignorance, and it'll be applauded for being ignorant and not considering other people. Like, that's the part that bothered me. Like, I thought, okay, maybe I'd get a glimpse of more context by watching more, because the only thing I saw was the 30-second clip that, where he just says the racial epitaph. And I thought, okay, maybe if I watch more, I'll get a better understanding of where this guy is coming from. And it only made me angrier.
See, I think the thing with playing devil's advocate for these types of things, I think a good byproduct of it is proving that you don't have a lack of self-awareness in your own bubble. You can think like the other side, but you still know why they're wrong about that thing. Mm-hmm. And that's why you're on this side of it. So what I would say if I was on the other side, Jeremy, is it's not that fucking deep. Like, why are you making this a big intellectual exercise? He fucked up and now he needs to deal with that. But I don't think he was he's not sitting there going like, what does society feel about this? Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm just going to go up there and be ironic and shit. But it's like, no, it is a two-way street. You are a communicator and there are receivers.
I mean, that only
so
goes.
You're causing them to feel a certain way, and they have the right to feel that way.
Right. And that only goes to prove my point. Like, he gets to live with the privilege of not having to do that.
He doesn't care. He doesn't need to think. He doesn't need to like live in a society where he feels like that's gonna. Yeah.
And if anything totally we've learned over the last year, sometimes words, or hurtful words, turn into hurtful actions.
It also, it just causes a consensus too, where it's like a lot of those people probably went home like empowered, like, yeah, comedy's back, baby. I can say chink whenever I want, and it doesn't fucking matter. And you're right that it does come down to white privilege, because it's like, and it sounds so. See, what they've done to people is they've caused almost every little keyword or every little phrase like white privilege. It makes me cringe when I say it. I feel like people are going to hear me say that, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, he's just this whiny little bitch." But it's like, no, it's actually, things have more meaning. We've been gaslit into feeling guilty about sounding too liberal. And that is how you wear away at progress.
I mean, if I were playing devil's advocate on this, I would say that we have set up this entire podcast in order to liberally use the word chink under a veil of liberalism.
You found a chink in our armor.
Yeah.
We found it, Steven.
Yeah.
So one thing that I didn't know too is that Tony requested this dude open for him. So they had worked together before, and Tony liked him and wanted him to go before him, wanted him to open for him, introduce him. So there's a previous relationship there, and I mean, I can't speak on how well they knew each other, but they knew each other enough to where Peng could have said, "Hey, man, let's chat." Like, instead of putting it up on Twitter for the world to see, how would you? If you're in that position where Tony Hinchcliffe says, "Hey, I like your stuff, open for me," and then he does the whole thing, what is your response? Do you just put that stuff on social media, or do you talk to him, or neither? Do you do something else?
I mean, I'm all about the talk to the person first to see truly where their heart is, what their true views are. I'm never one to rush to social media. I mean, it happens. I'm guilty of it to immediately respond on social media, but I'm more of a try and understand the person first before putting their shit out there and my shit out there.
Especially as a comic, people are going to do shit like that. And it's just like, whatever, unless it's super egregious.
Yeah. I mean, we also don't have the context of what was Tony like to him post performance.
Just how Tony is as a person, because I don't know his person. I don't know what he actually believes. So I wouldn't it's hard to say how ironic he was being, because when he got to the whole liberal pussy thing, that's when you're like, I mean, he's clearly, there's something going on there. I don't know what his real view. That's where it got muddled. I don't think the context made it any better. It made it more questionable, actually, I think. So
yeah, he became that. It became evident that he was coming from that "you can't say anything anymore" kind of
who he associates himself with, where he was. He explained what he was, ironic or not, what his intention was there, and he was getting his responses. He wasn't going, "Oh, you guys are actually idiots for that." Like, he was like, "Yeah," and he just kind of went along with it.
So how could he have gone up there and made that funny? Like he still wanted to make the same point. How could he have done that better?
I think he could have gone up there and did what he did. No, I don't necessarily think this would have made it funnier. I'm saying it would have made it a little more obvious that he was trying to be funny, and it may have still failed or been a failure of an attempt. But when he, instead of doubling down on the irony, supposedly, by saying, Texas, I left LA, blah, blah, blah. If he would have just been like, boom, and cut the volume down, went to a different personality. Like, he didn't go up there dressed up as a hillbilly. Right. He didn't go up there. He was himself. He came up with a posture that made me mad. Did you see how his neck looked when he walked in? He was like,
oh yeah.
He kind of did that, and I was like, I already hate this guy's posture.
The blowing kisses to the audience, like unironically.
I was sleeping on a board last night. I'm Tony Hinchcliffe. I want to get every inch out of my height. But yeah.
6'2.5".
Yeah. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't know Tony enough. I feel like that would have helped, and I don't know, coming in here. But again, you don't need to. This is an audio. This is comedy. I shouldn't have to do research on someone just to know what their intentions were.
Right. And unlike the comic, when you do a room, you should have an awareness of what that room, at least, judging by the few comics that you've seen before, like what will they respond to? What will they not? Like, you can call them out for laughing at the previous comics jokes in a way that's a little bit more, I don't want to say uplifting, but has better intent behind it.
Yeah.
I don't know how, in that case.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always one where I will try to tie, like a comic before me, if they have a bit that I can make a connection between one of my bits, I'll try to come up with like a line or two that connects those thoughts. And then I can naturally go into my set. Whereas this was just a roast. And for somebody who's a joke writer for like Comedy Central roasts, which is Tony Hinchcliffe has done, like, you would think that he would have better stuff.
So you think he was on coke? I think he might have been on coke.
Yeah, that's a speculation.
He was high on Tony or something.
Yeah.
He was high on himself. Something was going on there where he had a hyper level of confidence.
And I could see that happening too. You've been in LA, you've got this ultra successful podcast, you headline clubs across the country, and now you live in this second tier comedy city. You're king shit. Like, getting up on stage, I can say whatever I want. There's no consequences.
I'm Joe Rogan's little henchman.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's any number of elements that come into play here. For me, though, if I were to sum up my position on it, it's all about intent. Even if you are more conservative and you do want to make that statement, again, like what you were saying, Jeremy, who are you giving ammo to? Who are you aiming at? Like, what do words do have consequences nowadays. We've seen it in the news multiple times over the last couple of years.
Good. I'm glad
think beyond the tip of your nose.
If words didn't have meanings, you'd be like, wait, what? What are you saying? I don't understand what you're saying. They all have meaning.
Listen to this podcast. There would be a lot more rolled R's in the English language.
I love how eloquent you made my point. Like, because I was getting really self-conscious there for a second, thinking like, was my point that I wasn't offended by what he did, but I was offended by his lazy writing.
And as a comic, you should be. I'm also offended by the fact that that young man didn't take it up with him first. His name isn't Young Man. I forgot his name for a second. Peng Dang.
Yeah.
Although it could have been Young Man. Yeah, I mean, if I were to tell a joke about a comic and they didn't like it, and all of a sudden I see it on social media, like, can you believe this? I'd be like, dude, we know each other. Like, come talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we made a joke in jest towards another comedian and have just gone out of our way to make sure to let that comedian know, like, look, man, I didn't mean any harm, or I didn't mean anything to hurt you. I just was making a joke.
Yeah.
And you were, like, there was a time where somebody had made fun of a friend of mine who was in the audience, and they called them, they're like, oh, you might like, they basically called them gay. And so the guy's closing joke was, your ass is the same skin as your lips. And so I just got up there and I said, oh, so your ass is the same skin as your lips, huh? And he goes, yeah, look it up. And I go, well, that explains why you look like such an asshole all the time. And I just wanted to let that guy know that, like, you can't just maliciously attack other people like that. And and as soon as I was, we had a good laugh, and I said, like, I'm just poking fun. I'm just having a good time. And, like, as long as you, I think that you can get away with saying certain things just as long as you, you respect the person enough to consider their feelings in it.
Yeah, we can say some pretty nasty shit too. I've called people pedophiles, like that.
Me too.
So, but I don't mean it, and
I don't even say pedophile. I say child molester. That's even worse because it's more graphic.
Yeah.
But those are hecklers, and they were legitimately some pretty awful people.
Oh, I've called other comics pedophiles, but there's no.
I'm just happy to be talked about. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I love that limelight.
We're not here to be the judge and the jury. We're just telling everyone our opinion. It's not like we're like indicting him on something. Not that he shouldn't be or whatever, but it's just one of those things where it's like, again, it's not like anybody cares what we have to say, but we have a right to express ourselves.
Right. And I think Greg Stone put it best in our episode with him, is that, comics, we're great at asking questions. We're great at poking holes in things. Ask us what the answer is. I have no idea. So, this to me begets more questions.
Right.
Which is good, because questions, somebody can answer them.
I don't have the answers. I'm not claiming to have the answers. I always want to preface things too. I talk very authoritatively, and it's like, this is my opinion.
Right.
And I feel very strongly about it. I have evidence to support it. I have ways of testing it and being able to make it predictable but it's still ultimately my opinion.
Right. And this whole thing is way more nuanced than people are making it out to be. Oh, you should cancel him. Oh, this is bad. This is offensive.
None of you have the authority to do any of that.
Right.
You can express your opinion and put it on social media just the way he could walk on stage and call someone a chink. But he's going to have to deal with all this backlash. Mm-hmm. That's he invited it. Mm-hmm. You see him on his podcast. He's a dick. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm inclined to believe that that's just how he is, and not an ironic thing. So it's like...
Right. It's like, if you don't like it, don't listen to him. Don't,
And that might be a persona, but it's established.
I mean,
it's an established persona.
Some of my favorite people are just total assholes, and I feel like sometimes they get lost in the mix of, like, that's just part of their charm. Like, I know it rubs people the wrong way, but... in the end, they're just kind of like these funny curmudgeons. You know what I mean?
Like, you can be an asshole, but you can still be kind. I know a lot of people who are pieces of shit that would do anything for anybody.
I'm right here.
Yeah.
I'm an asshole to a lot of people, but I like to say that I'm an asshole to assholes mostly. And then anything else I do, roasting or anything, that's just good-hearted fun. And I always communicate with people that I'm like, that I like them and that I don't mean what I say. And it's never this bad. It's always very lighthearted roasting.
Right. My goal when I get on stage is I want the comics, the audience, whatever, whoever's in the room, once I get off stage, I want their night to be better because I performed. I don't want to. So even if I'm calling you out for something, like, I don't want you to feel bad 99% of the time. But if I did, then I have to reframe the way I did it, or rewrite the joke, or come from a different perspective, which is the same thing as reframing.
Here you have Ari Shaffir going on, being like, this is the context. And then he's the guy that used to go around to like black neighborhoods dressed as a Klansman. Mm-hmm. And it's like, who's this joke for? It's not making them laugh. Like, yeah. And you're like, no, but it's comedy. I'm being ironic. I'm a Jew. And it's like, thanks for making comedy so complicated. Why don't you just make it funny? It's so much easier to do that. You ever think about that? Like, why are you making this a big social statement when really the point is to be funny? Yes, some people find the craziness of that to be funny. I did find it funny on some level, but it's also like, well, these people you're putting these people in a ton of distress. So clearly you don't have the right intentions at heart. That's not.
Yeah. Who is this for? That's a good question to ask.
Like it'll be funny. And then you'll see someone get seriously angry and then it's not funny anymore. And then you're like, okay. Cause like we all understand irony. Like we get why he thinks he's doing it, but it's still, why are you making this so fucking confusing?
I think I look at what Sacha Baron Cohen does too, like the way
he's a perfect example of
does characters that would fit into that social setting. So he's the rodeo clown or the country music singer at a far right rally. Like
that's why he's a genius, because he does what they want to do, but he does it right, and he does it in the right context.
And he gets them.
And it's social commentary that is poignant and wins awards, wins Golden Globes. Like his show is probably the best comedy show I've ever seen in my life. The Ali G Show, only 2 seasons, probably some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life and ever will.
Eric Andre is a good example of that as well. Like the one thing I love so much about Eric Andre's pranks or jokes or whatever, it shows the good in humanity in the end. Like, yeah, he's making the shit that's silly and funny, but the people who he's pranking end up being the ones who look really good in the situation. And that's one thing I love so much about his pranks in particular.
Well, it's half of them are like the people that are like setting the record straight on what is good, but then there's the other people he interviews who are legitimately bad, and then they play along with him and then expose the uglier side of society. And then, you're right. Yeah, that's like half the people he does are people that play the straight man versus playing along with it unknowingly.
Right. If you go to a black neighborhood in a Klan hood, you're not getting a genuine response. I mean, you're not getting like, what are you trying to prove? What is the point here? Whereas if you go to a far right rally as a country singer and you're bashing like, Fauci and things like that, and in a way that inspires the people who are there to play along, like that's the sweet spot right there. It's just you're getting them to expose their dark side without forcing it. I don't know.
It's just the privilege of not having to consider the context of the other side.
I'm going to take this from Andrew Schultz's podcast. He quoted Patrice O'Neill when they were talking about this. Good and bad jokes come from the same place. Was this just a bad joke coming from a bad place? Was this a bad...
you mean a bad joke coming from a good place?
Yeah.
I don't know. What
only one person can really answer that. I want to see what he does, because I heard that he's been trying to reach Peng Dang. Tony has. And he's not responding. The kid hasn't posted anything on social media since the video, which to me is it's kind of like, all right, dude, if you're gonna like put this up, you've got to defend your position. Like you've got to stand by it. You've got to add to it. You've got to, whatever.
He doesn't want to do what we do on the podcast. That's what he's avoiding. He probably thinks it's stupid to try to explain jokes, but it's like, again, it goes back to, there's so much more nuance to things than you just thinking like I said earlier, where I was like, who cares? It's not that deep. Well, it is actually, whether you care to care about it or not. I didn't make the rules. It's just how communication works with humans.
There's a rabbit hole that leads to another rabbit hole to another rabbit hole. I mean, and that's why I love this podcast is that we do explore that nuance. That's really, we could sit here and label things as funny, not funny, but the why is really that unending, when you're a little kid, you ask why for everything. Like, well, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? And as adults, we're more comfortable with absolutes and like more judgment style thinking. Whereas as kids, and because that's what nature is just 100% nuance. Like it
really is.
And we're conditioned out of that. And so that's why I think this bit took off the way it did, is because immediately you have a judgment for it. Whereas to me, it's very complicated.
Here's one thing. Here's a way to look at it is, all right, so it's not that deep. Well, and then you can reverse it on them, point the gun at their direction and do that. And it's like, it doesn't have a meaning. So I thought you said nothing has a meaning. So I said all this to you. You shouldn't care. Mm. It's like you can flip the logic on them and prove to them that the things do matter. Whether or not they want to admit it is another thing. But
yeah, and the idea that he's quote unquote canceled over this is he's not canceled.
He'll be fine.
The consequences to this is that at most he's put in timeout for a little while.
No one gets canceled. That's not a thing. Like, shows get canceled. Like Roseanne got canceled, but Roseanne is touring the country with Andrew Dice Clay. Not that that's a huge gig or anything, but he's just
things are going great.
They're not going great. I'm just saying that you can easily tap into the country music market, which is the biggest music market in the country. You know what I mean? It's called country for a reason. It's literally like there's a whole market there, and that's kind of what a lot of comics are doing. They tour the country and they're selling all these podunk fuck holes, and they think that this is where comedy is. And it's like, no, you're just dipping your toes into the ignorance pool and profiting off of it. Mm-hmm. The reason people don't like big cities is because there's a lot of brains in the big cities, a lot of people that know things about sociology and how humans work.
Same with universities.
Yeah, universities, these are intellectual places. They're not stupid. They're not brainwashing your kids. They're making your kids smarter. And I stand by that 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're brainwashing your kids. You mean they're teaching them new ideas?
You've been brainwashed, dumb fuck. Do you ever think about how maybe you're the one that's brainwashed? Wow. Yeah, you're fucking dumb. See, this is why I like, this is punching up. I'm allowed to call these people dumb all I want because they have all the privilege they want to go and get an education, but it gets really complicated because I also don't think that it's like their fault. I don't like using the word fault, but they are who they are. And I think they still need to learn something from the way they behave, especially when it's a negativity thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you don't know what you don't know.
I don't care if someone's dumb. I care if they're dumb and they think they're smart and they're an asshole to smart people and call smart people stupid. That's when I have a real fucking problem because that's going to destroy the entire world. Everything's just going to implode if that catches on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
our society is fucked. We're going back to the Stone Age. So
it's better to know what you don't know than to not know what you know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
The more you know, more you know you don't know shit. And that is a quote from MF Grimm. So
yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts?
I think that was all one big closing thought.
All right. You dumb.
Tony Hinchcliffe, he's a stupid, saltine cracker honky. See, but that's the thing, that white privilege is saying that and it doesn't have any punch to it.
Right.
It doesn't have any punch to it.
Means nothing.
It doesn't mean shit, especially coming from me. It's like this weird, like, ironic thing.
Let's take it back to the times I was marginalized.
Like I always say, the crackers are the ones that are the most offended by my jokes. And the saltines are the saltiest. And they've had it ritzier than everybody else.
All right. Jeremy, I don't even know if I want you to talk after that line.
No,
I don't want to say anything else either.
That's a great spot to end. I was like, well, we can end it there. I'm cool with that.
Well, thanks for tuning into this special edition of You Can't Laugh at That. If you want to weigh in on the topic, follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at You Can't Laugh Pod, on Facebook at You Can't Laugh at That, and share your side of the story. What's your perspective on it? We want to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on whatever streaming platform that you get your podcasts. And if it happens to be Apple, make sure you rate us 5 stars. If it's 4 stars, we'll take 4 stars. But give us that 5-star rating. We want to show you that. Actually, Steve, why don't you close it out with that, with the old "you can laugh at it" line?
What line's that?
Oh, you know how I
from
just,
now on,
I
don't know. It's word salad to me. I don't say it every week. I hear it every week. I don't want to say it.
Right. All right. So next time you see a video of a comedian using a racial slur on social media, the next time that you find yourself offended at something someone says, remember that from some angle, somehow, some way, you can laugh at that.
You can't laugh at that.